Terrarian in the Dungeon, Chapter 18, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for listening and patreon.com/Azazyel to read all of his stories. But the great atmosphere in the Hostess was ruined as one of the level 4 Loki adventurers was suddenly pushed through the door, and only another adventurer stood up and stopped the young man from crashing into several tables. Kek Kek, so many familias were invited but the Ishtar Familia was skipped over. From the entranceway of the Hostess of Fertility, stomped in literally the greatest divide in beauty I have ever seen. Ishtar the goddess was definitely beautiful objectively, but her vile core was known to me, and I was able to throw aside the passive charm nonsense she put out far easier than I could push off Freya's influence. But beside Ishtar was her captain Phryne Jamil. For an anime world with most people being airbrushed and looking at least pretty good, Phryne Jamil was none of that. She hit every damn stair when she fell down the ugly staircase, in other words. She literally looked like a toad. She had sideways split putrid yellow eyes and her head was comically large atop her body with her seemingly not even having a neck at all. I told Freya not to invite you myself if she wanted to host this party at my restaurant. Now get the hell out of my restaurant as I already need to replace the boards your filthy feet have walked upon. Mia said coldly and everyone shut up as they felt the bloodlust coming off Mia. Very well, I can see where I am not wanted. But Jake Barris, you are welcome to host your boss parties with the Amazons in the entertainment district. I am sure you can find greater offers there than with Loki and Freya's toys. Ishtar said proudly, turning around as even with how arrogant she was, she knew her single level 5 was nothing in the face of Freya or Loki's Familia. She had no right to force her place here. With Ishtar's words hanging on me, I could feel her charm worming into my head trying to twist me into chasing after her, but with a mental shrug, I spoke instead of following Ishtar like some lost child about to be abducted into a van. I would sooner commit suicide than seek any pleasure from your broken dolls, Ishtar, I said cold as ice, and Ishtar froze with Phryne Jamil also looking back at me with a dangerous smile. Yeah, Phryne Jamil's little taste for little boys to torture isn't much of a secret, nor is how you use your divine charm to keep your Familia members as little broken toys a secret. Why do you think no one of any talent will join you? I said mockingly, making Ishtar shatter the smoking pipe she was carrying. I would beware the dungeon, little man. The monsters are the last thing you need to worry about now. Ishtar blatantly threatened me. But I only laughed as I had zero fear of her. I had Loki and Freya behind me at the moment, and in the worst case scenario, I can literally teleport faster than someone could assassinate. The only fate I fear from your broken toys is that toad attempting to sit on me, I said, pointing at Phryne, and I could hear Tiona burst into cackling laughter. But go ahead. Have your adventurers attempt to assassinate me in the dungeon. But can they outrun a monster Rex spawned on them? I said cheerily, making the room go silent as they realized if I was pressed into the dungeon. Welp, fuck everyone on that floor. Ishtar snarled, and I felt Phryne Jamil's murderous eyes take me in as she seemingly memorized my appearance before she nodded and left with her goddess. With Ishtar out of the restaurant, I just sat back down in my seat next to Demeter with the table's occupant staring at me. For a moment the hostess went awkwardly silent before Loki stood up and spoke boisterously. Next round's on me. Let's knock one back to forget the last couple of minutes, haha. With Loki buying everyone a drink, the previous atmosphere returned, and finally Loki and Freya Familia made their move to retake control of this whole boss farming event. Freya then stood up with everyone nice and settled in. The Freya and Loki Familia will be working together to be using Jake Barris's lower-level bosses for level-ups and general high-quality Excelia farming, so while my Familia takes care of Jake's direct safety, Loki's Fin Dame will be coordinating where and when his bosses should be summoned, as they cannot be summoned directly in Aurario's Colosseum due to how mobile they are. Freya explained, much to the consternation of the gods who wanted easy access to the bosses. But even as Freya got into talking about the logistics with Finn, I realized that while I loved the whole material support the Jumbo Familias would bring, but I realized that while summoning the bosses was a bit of a chore, such a tiny chore only requires me to participate until I get all the materials I need for my builds up to hard mode. Once I got all the materials to prepare for hard mode, then I could throw off the other expectations of Aurario's adventures regardless of my level. In that case, seeing as you guys have everything well in hand, me and my goddess will be returning for the night, I said as I escaped Demeter's now drunken grabby hands and helped Seshet stand up. Ah, you are leaving so early, Jake. Loki called out as she took another swig of her tankard with Gareth. Seems like everything is well in order for now, but before all you guys get drunk and rowdy, and Mamma Mia crack some skulls, I am going to escape, haha. I joked as I pointedly looked at Alan and Bet, who were sitting next to one another and unsubtle cursing at one another with pressure building between the hot-headed young men. But before anyone could say anything, Bet snapped drunkenly to Alan about how weaklings need to just shut up. "You are level lower than me, you stupid mutt." Alan yelled out infuriated, and then I could hear the crunching noise as Otter squeezed his metal tankard into a wad, silencing both of the drunks. "No fighting." The king spoke and the drunk adventurers listened. But while Otter had everyone's attention, I led Seshet out of the restaurant. For a moment I thought about walking us back home, but then remembering how I pissed off Ishtar, I got a better idea, and as soon as we walked out of view in the restaurant side alley, I took out my magic mirror while holding on to Seshet, and with a blur we arrived back home atop my room's bedding, and Seshet collapsed against me groaning. "Ugh, give a goddess a heads up before you teleport," Seshet complained, but I simply patted her on her back consolingly, as I didn't really have much of a choice. If I just told her, it was possible people could have heard me, but now surrounded by my impervious stone structure we were literally untouchable, as I had replaced even the ground in case someone dug under the house. We were safe. A couple of minutes later, with Sir Fluffykins the First acting as our mascot, we had finally cleaned up from the day's excitement, but I had noticed Seshet was looking rather pensive. "What's up, Seshet?" I asked as I took my goddess in my arms to give her a belly rub, making her grumble at my audacity. "Impertinent." She snorted, but was still as I sat with her on my lap while we were atop her pile of mattresses and pillows in a sunning room as we just relaxed. I just kept rubbing my cat goddess's tummy, and she calmed down as the belly rub clearly showed to be worth more comfort than slapping me for not begging for the opportunity. Eventually, though, Seshet told me what was weighing on her mind. "This is all happening so fast. It's unreal, and I don't know what to do honestly," she said weakly, and I nodded in understanding with my hand moving from her stomach to begin scratching behind her ears. "Seshet, we will just take one day at a time. We made a good showing, and although summoning the bosses for them can be a bit of a chore, but it's only on the weekends. For the rest of the time, I can continue to work here in the shop or go into the dungeon to strengthen my fauna," I said, as the biggest thing I cared about my fauna was actually my magic, dexterity, and agility stats, as doing as much magic possible and simply not getting hit was my best bet. Seshet purred into my hands, and I just enjoyed the comfort that came from my warm goddess pushing into my hands for harder scratches. "Seshet, could I get my fauna updated? It's been a few days, and with those bosses I messed with, I am curious if I got anything," I said softly, and I chuckled as Seshet growled at me. "No, just let me rest," she bemoaned, but she still got out of my lap and crawled behind me and over to an end table with some paper she had set up here to do my fauna upon. "Lay down, Jake, so I can work easier." Seshet ordered me all business, and I silently obeyed by lying face down so Seshet could sit upon the back of my thighs so she could lean over me and update my fauna. "Well, you are still definitely a cheat, Jake. It seems the spawning of those bosses did actually have an effect on you." Seshet spoke aloud as her hands drew divine arcane symbols onto my very soul, and I felt her motions that engraved a new skill onto me without her even saying anything. Jake Barris. Level 1. Strength 123H. Endurance 210G. Dexterity 152H. Agility 170H. Magic 304F. Skill. The Terrarian enforces Terrarian world logic upon the user, restricts acquisition of development abilities and fauna-backed spells in order to host mods. Mods may not be taken/disabled/traded for another mod. The user's alien logic to the world prevents mental status effects from affecting the user. King's Fall. The killing of all monster Rex tier opponents for the first time encourages potential growth with each subsequent kill of monsters already killed, only providing high-quality excelia to fuel growth.